Now, every time I think about getting rid of these dress shoes, it is because I feel like I have a lot of other options that come pretty close to the formality level of the dress shoe. First and most closest is going to be the Dalton wingtip dress boot. This is a very sleek silhouette, very nicely designed, very slim design boot. It almost looks a bit dainty when you just look at it right here without the outfit in a vacuum, but these are going to look a lot better with jeans and a t-shirt. And of course, you can still wear them with a suit. They're still very formal. Not wearing them for black tie just because they're not black anyway. These are also considerably more comfortable since they do have a double leather sole. This one has a single leather sole, if you could see, and that just makes the boot rather, super comfortable. So these are the number one contender and the number one reason why I think about getting rid of these. However, what I've landed on is I can just rotate back and forth between these. This is just like both my dress shoes, right? I could have these on Monday, these on Tuesday, these on Wednesday. This can stand in as an actual dress shoe. But the one thing about this is it's never going to look quite as appropriate as a low-cut dress shoe. And I'm waiting for the summer. I'm waiting to see how they actually feel in the super hot summer. The calfskin leather on these shoes is going to be a lot more breathable than something, let's say, let's say a Chrome XL leather on a pair of Thursday boots or the Allen Edmonds Higgins Mills that I used to own. But because there's just more of that leather, they might just run a bit too hot. And that's one of the reasons why I always hesitate with getting rid of these. Something else, I think these are discontinued as well. This is a more casual option. However, it's weird. It's both more casual and more dressy than the wingtip boot. The cap toe design is a lot more formal. However, that day-night rubber outsole and that bigger welt just means this boot is a bit more hardy, a bit more wide at the bottom. However, still slim and sophisticated. Definitely looks a lot better when compared to the Thursday Captains that I also have. These you can't really dress up as much as the Dalton wingtips. However, you can get pretty close. But when we put the Landon cap toe next to a slim wingtip, you can see there is a little bit more of a contrast here. So I want to get rid of the actual dress shoes that I have. These I really can't fall back on just because they can look a bit too rugged in some situations if you're wearing them with even more of a casual suit. Hybrid shoes. I am a big fan of hybrid shoes. Should you be wearing these with a suit? That is a big fat no, especially the pair with the lighter colored outsole. This is an awesome casual shoe. I almost said boot. Awesome casual shoe. The brown upper with the white bottom just makes it look really nice, really great as far as a super casual summertime shoe when it's too hot to wear boots, but you don't want to fall back on a pair of running sneakers. This is going to get you super comfortable running. We're talking tennis shoe running sneaker comfort, but you can shine them up and they're just going to look miles better. Match them with a nice colored brown belt. It's going to make all of your outfits look a lot better than if you're wearing a pair of athletic shoes. However, you really can't dress these up past even if you start to wear them in a business casual environment, it's just not going to look quite as nice with that lighter colored outsole. That is where you could definitely step it up to the darker colored outsole that you're seeing right here. Same color, brown, just about. This is just going to make the shoe look a lot more appropriate with those more formal outfits. However, as a lot of you have commented, these you really can only push them to a nicer pair of chinos with a polo shirt, maybe a sport coat. You start to wear these with a suit, it's going to look not that great. It's also going to feel kind of weird. It just feels like you're wearing sneakers. If you're anything like me, I'm just so accustomed to when I'm wearing a suit and I'm wearing a nice cushy shoe, it just doesn't feel right. I need to actually feel a shoe that actually has more of that feedback, more of that heel strike as you're walking. It just feels better. It feels like I'm wearing dress shoes, and a lot of times when we dress up, it's because we get a better feeling. So these, you might be able to pull it off with a super casual suit, but I would just say stay away from these for wearing suits. But if you're wearing a pair of chinos, dress shirt, throw a sport coat on, maybe you live in a place like New York City and you got to walk 20 minutes to the nearest subway station and then you got to walk another 15 minutes, definitely these are going to be great. These are also going to be great since if it rains, if you get them destroyed, if you get them soaked, these are Typically, you can find them on Cole Haan's website for about $150, which you could buy a couple of pairs of these when compared to even these for $300 on sale. You could buy 2 of these for 1 of these. What if we took that Cole Haan shoe and actually got it in all black? Does this make it a little bit better to wear with a full suit? Well, in my opinion, yes, you can now wear these with a full suit. And of course, it is not going to be as appropriate as, again, a real dress shoe with a stacked heel, leather outsole, almost said rubber outsole. This one's still going to be a lot more appropriate than something like this. However, you can find a pair of these for about $100. I think I got these for $80, believe it or not. On Amazon, they were on sale. You might have to wait for a sale, but that is an absolute steal of a value. As you can see, you can still shine them up really nice. Really important with a cheaper shoe to keep them in shoe or keep shoe trees in them. Definitely make sure you condition them. Don't let them get too dirty. But honestly, because this shoe does have a nice sleek silhouette, it does, or it can closely mimic a pair of actual dress shoes. And if you keep them mirror shined, no one's gonna really notice a difference, unless the fashionista style snobs are gonna definitely say you shouldn't be wearing them. But honestly, if you're just looking to get into a nice pair of black dressy shoes, you can't go wrong with these. There's no reason to go spend $300 or $400 on a nicer pair of Allen Edmonds or something just like it if you're brand new to this. Bonus of this is, again, it's going to be super comfortable. It has that rubber sole already built in. I've ridden my bicycles in these. Wear them in the rain. You could wear them in the snow, although you should be wearing boots in the snow. Walk 10 miles, no problem at all. And they're just going to look much better than a pair of sneakers. And when we compare them to the brown pair, sure, brown is always going to be a lot more interesting, a lot more versatile if you just need a nicer pair of black shoes to wear to dress up. If you've run a tight budget, definitely this is, as far as the hybrid shoes go, this is the closest thing to a real dress shoe, unless you go with an actual dress shoe, or like we were saying, the Dalton wingtip dress boots. Okay, now, if you have nothing, or let's do it this way. If I had nothing, if I lost everything and I was starting over all over again, right? If I was just had nothing and I had a minimal budget, what would I get first? Well, of course, the dress shoe is going to be a better long-time investment. It's going to be pretty steep to buy these at $300 even. That's their sale price. They go for about $425 last I checked. You're still going to have to break them in. You might have to stretch them. You might have to, or you definitely should be putting that sole protector on unless you just want them to be a nice weather shoe. So there's just going to be a lot of stuff you're going to have to go through. And most of us, especially if you're new to this, you're most likely not going to want to get your shoes and then just have to do work to them, adding a sole protector, stretching them out. It's just going to be a lot, and then that break-in process is still there. And if you're not used to wearing traditional dress shoes with hard bottom leather soles, they aren't going to be very comfortable for you at first until your feet adapt. So the first shoe, the absolute first shoe that I would get if I was on a tight budget, I would just go ahead and get a pair of black Cole Haan Original Grand Hybrid wingtips. I would check Amazon since some of their older models are a lot of times marked down significantly. These, I'm pretty sure I got them for $80. Last I checked, they're going for about $130, so a bit higher. They do make a newer version called the Remastered Original Grand. That's actually what these brown ones are, and they just have a lot more. It's like they have memory foam down here, so they are considerably, well, not considerably, they are more comfortable, or they do have a lot more cushion. But something like this is definitely a great starting point for a lot of people. Or if I, like I said, if I was on a super tight budget and I'd start all over, this would be my first stop. Around $100, I would just get this. I would invest in some shoe polishing and shoe conditioning, a cheap pair of wooden cedar shoe trees, right? It has to be full cedar. It can't be the plastic ones, because the cedar is going to not only keep the shoe from wrinkling like crazy, it's going to allow the shoe to dry out. It's going to absorb the moisture. This is going to be a great first option. Now, as far as the second option goes, I would want to get something like the Dalton wingtip dress boot. Why dress boots? Well, you can dress these all the way up to a nice suit, but you could also dress them down to a nice pair of jeans and a nice polo shirt, or even a nice solid colored t-shirt. Super comfortable, super solid. Like honestly, these are going to be some of the most versatile shoes and the most comfortable shoes that you can get. A lot of times boots are built with a more chunkier outsole. These in particular have a double leather sole when compared to the single leather sole right here. And these are the most comfortable shoes, or comfortable boots and shoes, everything included, comfortable pair of footwear that I've had from Allen Edmonds. So this would definitely be my second stop. However, Allen Edmonds, in their infinite wisdom, decided to discontinue these. They do have a new pair called I think it's called the Maddox wingtip boot, but it's in walnut, which can be very limiting, and that boot is pushing $1,000, whereas these were just about $500. Unfortunate that they discontinue these. What I would look at instead would be the Thursday wingtip boot. Of course, it's not going to be as top quality as a pair of $500 made in America wingtip boots. However, with Thursdays, you're going to get good quality, especially for the price. I believe $235 last I checked. The comfort is definitely going to be there. The one question I would have in my mind is, does that boot breathe well enough to be worn in the summertime? It's something I'm waiting to test this boot on, just to see if I can actually withstand the summertime heat with a boot that covers my ankle. So that's just something that I would also be wary of. If they're good enough and they're breathable, I would definitely get a pair of those, since they're going to be a lot cheaper than a lot of other options on the market. Now, once I have my black Cole Haans and my brown wingtip boots, would I buy the McAllisters again? That's a tough question. I think I most likely would, just because I've had it for so long and I know that it works for me. I know that I know that I'll have to stretch it out, but I know that I can. I have shoe stretchers that I purchased on Amazon. I know putting shoe trees in is going to keep the shoe nice. It's not going to be crazy wrinkled right here. I know how to take care of them. I know how tight or loose to tie them so that it doesn't cause my foot to be slipping around in there. And I know that I can get the leather sole version, and I can just get one of these cheap sole protectors, a little bit of crazy glue, and I can make the shoe last a lot longer while also adding some comfort. So I wouldn't buy these at full price. I think $400 or $425, whatever they're going for, is a bit steep. I would definitely wait until October when they have their annual sale, and I try to get them for about $300. But since I'm already going to have the Thursday wingtip boots and the Cole Haan All Black Original Grand, I should be covered and there shouldn't be any rush to get these. However, if money were no object, I would definitely go ahead and get this shoe right here, which is going to be the Allen Edmonds Mason wingtip, or Maddox Mason. The name will come up right here. Mason, the Reserve Collection Mason wingtip shoes right here. The nice thing about this shoe is, of course, it's going to be crazy expensive, $800. However, my experience with Allen Edmonds is you get what you pay for. I would have no problem paying top dollar for the Mason wingtip. Bonuses similar to the Dalton. It's going to have that double leather sole, which is going to definitely aid in making the boot, or the shoe rather, super comfortable. It's also going to have an open lacing system, which you see right there, not a closed lacing system, so it's going to be more forgiving on the fit and easier to dress down. And that long wing brogue has actually started to grow on me. This is a short wing right here, where that broguing just terminates right here, and the long wing, it just goes and wraps all the way around the shoe. It's something I just thought, take it and leave it. I like the short wing, but the long wing does look nice. And those ones in particular, the Mason Reserve long wings, they actually still look pretty slim and sleek. So it's not like you're wearing a big, bulky, chunky casual wingtip, which you really can't wear with suits. And that's definitely something that just makes it super versatile, more versatile, although more expensive than something like the Allen Edmonds. Of course, with that leather sole, you also have the ability to just slap on your sole protectors. And now that shoe, since it's going to be higher quality, all you've got to do is condition it once in a blue moon, keep them in shoe trees. Don't wear them every single day. Definitely leave them time to rest if you wear them in the rain. That shoe, I wouldn't be surprised if it lasts you 15, 20 years or more. Thanks for watching.